All right, welcome to, I'm going to call it my inaugural Clear the B.S. podcast or video cast. And I am so thrilled that my very first guest is Jo Davis. She is my soul sister. And the moment I met her, I just went, oh my goodness, it's like we're doing the same thing in different ways. And I just felt this immediate need to interview you and expose everyone that I know to you, because they are just going to be, their lives are going to be rocked, as I know mine was. It's just like, just rock, let's rock the boat, shall we? So Jo Davis, Jo is, I'll give you the official stuff. She's an author. She's a contributor at McGill Media and SimpleReminders.com. Those are all those beautiful posters and quotes that we see circulating and uplifting everyone on Facebook and Instagram. So thank you for that. She's an entrepreneur. She is a yes mentor. Yes. So you're going to be saying yes before the end of this. She's a charismatic public speaker. She is an internationally renowned artist, photographer, skydiver, and adventure addict. There is nothing this woman won't do because she says yes, and her life is richer for it. And if that scares you, you still got to talk with her because she's going to teach you otherwise. And she is the founder of, and this is very near and dear to my heart, Lift a Sister Up. And she's going to tell us all about that, and we will discuss why that's so important to me as well. And her passion is showing others what can be accomplished when we all get out of our own way, we serve, we lift each other up. In other words, it's not about trying to do the journey all by yourself. It's about getting together and supporting each other, lifting each other up. And so it's like being the tide that raises all ships, right, Jo?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And that is how we manifest big magic and master our badassery together. Oh, wow. I'm just like, I'm pumped already. And we're not even at the, we're just starting.
We're done. We're done. That's
okay,
the fastest
we're
interview
gonna go
ever.
master some badassery together. You guys, bye. Good to see you. No, okay. We'll get a little lot, because now that we've got everyone all excited, let's just, please, Jo, tell me first how you became like this master of saying yes, being a yes mentor, lifting your sister up. I mean, there's such a story there, and please share it.
So it's funny because we've talked about this before, where it takes a massive shift to create a massive change. And it might be a shift you didn't ask for, but your soul asked for. It might be a shift that you weren't paying attention to the whispers and the nudges, and then you get the smackdown. And for me, it was absolutely the smackdown. I had a great corporate job. I felt like I was helping people, but it was getting uncomfortable. It was getting uncomfortable showing up at work. It was getting uncomfortable being in a small room, as a managing director in the corporate world, and also doing image consulting for people. It was getting uncomfortable being in this small room, and I used that as a figurative and an actual thing. It wasn't just, I was in a small room. It was like I was putting myself in a little box. And I would sit with people and do consultations. And when I would sit with them, I would just have this intuitive feeling. I would know all these things about them. And it got to be where it felt wrong to be consulting someone about, and selling them something and marketing something to them about image changes, when I could see all their stuff. And I knew what they needed, and I knew what they were missing, and I knew where they were stuck, and I could just see it. And that got more and more and more clear, and it became a source of contention in my soul, because I felt like I was showing up with a cheat sheet about these people. And I didn't think that that was really right, because it wasn't like I was asking permission to know all these things about them intuitively. I just knew. And so every day I come to work, and I would, coach people, and I would work with employees, and I would sit in this little room, and I started having chest pain. Every day for 2 months I had chest pain, and I thought, this job is going to kill me. And it wasn't that it was this terribly hard job, although it had its moments. It was that I wasn't in alignment. with what I was really supposed to be doing, which is intuitively mentoring people, which is walking people through their lives to step into their greatness, to step into their badassery, to recognize the gifts that they too have been tucking away and not paying attention to. So literally one day I came to work and they let me go. They said, we're taking this center, this office, this location in a new direction, and thank you, and blah blah blah. And I was doing my art photography on the side, and I had that to fall back on. I always believe you have something to fall back on. I encourage people to do that allows them to utilize their creativity, that gets that creative juices flowing. Brene Brown says a life without creativity is not benign, and I'm a firm believer. Have some outlet, crochet, underwater basket weaving, I don't care what you do, just have something while you go to your corporate job and do the thing that pays the bills. And so I really, it was a turning point for me because it was a smackdown. It was a smackdown. And the twist to it was I was such a workaholic that I really believed the people I worked with were my friends and they were my employees. And so when I lost my job, I kind of lost all my friends. And I was like, ooh, well, I don't understand this. What just happened? I mean, these were women I'd worked with who, one of them moved from a domestic situation to like a 1-bedroom apartment. And within a week and a half, I had her place furnished with everything she could possibly need, all her basic, supplies, and a bed and sofa, dining room table. And there were all these women that I showed up for because I thought, oh, it's the right thing to do. Show up for each other. And so when I, didn't have a job and they all disappeared, I was like so confused because I kind of thought maybe the world thinks the way I do and you just keep showing up for each other and supporting each other. And really, it's not like that. Not everybody thinks that way. And it was really heartbreaking to be that lonely and in such a dark place in my life. It was really devastating. And that's where Lift a Sister Up blossomed from, was from a space of, you know what, if I'm meant to find my tribe and connect with other women and have soul sisters, then I need to be the person I need to be that I want in my life. So I need to be that person first, and I need to create the space for me first, and then my light will shine so bright, all these other people that are supposed to show up and connect with me will. So that's what I always tell people when they're like, I'm looking for love, I'm looking for friendship. I'm like, be it. Be that thing so that you'll attract all the things and the type of energies you want, because everything showing up in our lives is just a mirror of what we got to work on. And as much as we hate to hear that when we're having conversations about an ex-husband or something, it's the truth. It's the truth. And it's a hard thing for people to see, but that's kind of the long and short of it. I mean, I was, living in a space, I was making a great income and thought I had all these friends, and I really didn't. And then I didn't have the income, and then I was like alone in my thoughts, and I know that you can relate to that, hitting rock bottom and then being alone in your thoughts. And I made a conscious decision to be the person that I wanted to attract in my life and be that girl tribe that I want to attract. And I'm creating a space that women feel supported and loved and seen in their mess. And then from there, it sort of sprung off to teaching coursework, helping women move from big mess to big magic, which is that divine space where you hear the whispers and the nudges and you feel divinely guided, and the things just show up that are supposed to show up, and we're not making it so hard. And that's what I do now is I help women see that and find that within themselves, not external within themselves, but actually they've already got it. They're just clouded and muddy and distracted, and they got too much stuff in here, and we help clear all that out, which is much like your meditation work that you do, which is so exciting and so impressive, I might add. But yeah, that's the long and short.
Thank you. And you want to talk smackdowns, really, truly. One thing I teach is that we think that we have like all these different fears in our lives. And the reality is they can all be traced back to 5 main fears: fear of death, fear of disability, fear of destitution, fear of ostracization. That is word, ostracization. being ostracized. And then the least understandable one perhaps is ego death, fear of our identity, like losing our identity. And you went through at least two of those, and likely even three, right? The fear of destitution, like just to lose your job like that.
As a single mom with two kids.
I, yeah, okay, enough said.
People experience this every day. People experience this every day. It's just whether or not they get the message.
Absolutely. And then the fear of isolation, the fear of humiliation, the fear of failure, the fear of being ostracized, because if you're looking in terms of our evolution back in caveman days and our forebears, if we got kicked out of the tribe, that basically was like a death sentence because we wouldn't be able to survive on our own. And yet you overnight not only lost your job, your source of income, wondering how am I going to pay the bills, how am I going to pay my feed my children, and you lost your whole support system. And then I'm sure, because I know you went through this like crisis of, oh my God, like, where do I go from here? What does this mean? Who am I really? I thought I was this corporate giant and now, and provider for my kids. And I'm none of that now. I'm not a girlfriend. I'm not, who am I?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, stripped down.
And right, that's our biggest fear. If they say that people are, fear public speaking more than death, it's that fear of humiliation. It's that fear of failure, that fear of what will people think of me. And you face that head on. And
it was interesting too, because I had whispers and nudges. I mean, I was having chest pain every day. I was feeling like something else was happening in that office space. Like the only way I could describe it is like a dagger in your back, where you're just feels like something's off, and you ask someone a question and they, are kind of shady with their answer, and you're like, that was weird. Like all of these nudges and whispers. And then, just the engaging with clients and being like, getting this information and going, how do I know you beat your wife? Like, how do I know, like, or knowing when someone's sick, or seeing their illness, or just premonitions and things like that. And I think that we all, especially as women, have these finely tuned intuitive skills that were once finely tuned, as like babies. And then we're taught and taught and taught all these other ways to like, okay, well, believe what you see, and, give your grandmother a hug, even if you don't like her. Like you're forced to, act out these roles that you are like, ooh, like they don't feel right to you, and you keep pushing your way through them, which is how as women we get ourselves into a lot of trouble and very dangerous situations oftentimes, like walking through a dark parking lot and we have an uncomfortable feeling, or, but we're going to do it because we're tough. I mean, we just don't pay attention anymore. And when you get so many hits that it strips you down, it forces you to go, all that's left is me. And all that's left is, these divine gifts and skills. And, if you don't honor those, if you don't honor those, you will get the smackdown. If you're not listening to what your gut is telling you, I mean, you were in the medical field. I mean, how many people, especially women, you come across that have upper GI issues, hiatal hernia, inflamed esophagus, reflux, all these issues in their gut because they're not listening to their gut. And so I think, illness is another way that we get the smackdown, because we're not paying attention. And so for me, I think that being let go from my job really saved my life and really opened up this whole other part of me that has always been there, that I've always known was there, that I haven't honored and I haven't shown respect. And so, yeah, it was a lot of hits at once. It really, really was. And again, I don't want to see other people have to go through big smackdowns when we can teach them how to like tap into that big magic and tap into that more divine intuitive gifts that we all have. You know, to some degree, we all kind of sense what's going on. We all kind of sense there's something else happening around us that rattles us a little bit. We can't put our finger on it, but we don't know what it is. And so if we can, and this is what we talk about in our coursework, is if we can go through a process of meditation and releasing and surrendering and accepting the fact that we're a co-creator in our life, we're co-creating this path, and we were co-creating this path before we ever showed up on this path, then we have some sense of ownership, and then we have this sense of power that is in our core, that we are not handed anything we can't handle. And on top of that, we were part of making the decision to receive the thing we can't handle, which is hard for people. But it's transformative. And the people that are doing the coursework are coming back saying, this changed my life. I had this thing happen, and I didn't respond like I have for 40 years. I responded completely different, and I feel free. I slept like a baby. This opportunity fell through the cracks, and I was happy about it because I knew it wasn't for me. Went to bed, went home, went to bed, slept like a baby. So yeah, I think that the work you're doing and the work I'm doing are very similar in the fact that we want to shorten that learning curve for people so that they can have peace and joy and experience that sense of calm and also stepping into their power while they're surrendering, which is a complex thing for someone who has not awakened to their soul work. It's a complex thing for people to wrap their brain around, but the final result is you're in charge of your life, but you don't have to be clenching the steering wheel. You're in a place of surrender and you're rolling through it, but it's all yours. It's still yours. You're just letting the higher power, whatever it is you believe in, drop things at your feet that are divine and magical and so incredibly well thought out and for such a higher good that you couldn't have possibly planned it on your own. Like, it's synchronicity all over the place. There's nothing about my life that's not just unbelievably mystical and magical. And I mean, look at us connecting. I mean, just a series of events that I couldn't have planned this. Like, I mean, come on, you couldn't have, like, how, so I just think it's great for people to learn from our stories and great for people to connect with other people and have a mentor.
And co-mentor each other.
And co-mentor, because none of us, because we're not going to get through this thing by ourselves. It's not going to be as much fun. And why not move through the learning lessons more quickly instead of being in the mud forever? Let's keep moving. Get to the good stuff.
Get to the fun stuff, get to the good stuff. Mm-hmm. And I love that you got to the good stuff by giving to others what you wanted for yourself. Mm-hmm. I love that, because so often we humans are in a place of entitlement. We come from entitlement, that the world owes me, that if you loved me, you would do this for me. If your job is to make me happy, right? That gets us in trouble all the time in relationships of all kinds, right? Your job is to make me happy, and you're not making me happy, and I'm not happy, right? You complete me, versus saying, I'm here for you, right? Or it's barter. It's I'll do this for you if you do this for me, right? Which always leads to disappointment at some point, because if somebody's keeping tabs, it's like it's going to be almost impossible to keep it like even Steven, right? Versus just coming at it from a place of pure love, unconditional love and service, and just saying, how can I help you?
Mm-hmm. And I look at it, absolutely. And, Dr. Irene, I look at it like this. And my grandmother always said, if everybody looked out for everybody, everybody would have everything they need, because there's plenty to be had. But if you're not getting what you need, start giving. Because you can't attract the people you want in your life and the opportunities you want in your life until you become that thing. Like, you become that thing, you do the soul work. And I look at it like, if we're all these like bright lights, the way that you expand that light and the way that you are an influencer on the planet and a thought leader and a changer, even if it's just, being the person in your neighborhood that looks out for the guy 2 doors down that can't carry his groceries in, and you listen for him pulling up in the driveway, and then you run out there and you magically show up to help him, expecting nothing in return. Like, these little tiny decisions and these little actions we make with the intention of just giving
Mhm.
I feel like it expands that bright light. And I feel like when people connect with you, they're people that have that same light. They're people that have that same high vibe frequency. And I only make high vibe decisions. I only make high vibe decisions. I only spend time with high vibe people. And if people are coming to me that are in a space that they're like not operating from that frequency, but they are like ready to put the armor down and they're ready to throw up their hands and say, I need help. I'm ready to learn. I'm ready to grow. I'm tired of these patterns, these same archetypes showing up in my life again and again. I'm just not getting the message. Can someone help me? If they're really ready for it, together we can move to that higher frequency and shorten that learning curve. But, there's people that I won't work with who have asked for help. And I'm like, you're not ready for me. I say, put your big girl panties on, let's get to work. But some people just aren't ready. And, I'm sure you've had clients that reach out to you and you're like, yeah, it doesn't feel right to me. It doesn't resonate with me. And we turn them away.
Yeah.
But it's because they're really not there yet. And, but when they are, and they're ready, man, it's the most exciting, liberating thing in the world. It's invigorating, I guess is a better way to put it. It's like being on a high when you're helping to move someone through that more quickly. But expanding that light and being that light is gonna, I don't know, imagine like, God's up there looking around, okay, how's everybody doing? What do people need? And you're putting it out and putting it out, and you're giving and you're loving and you're lifting and serving others. You're being the person you want to attract. Well, eventually the universe sees that and goes, oh, they're not playing. They're not screwing around. Let's send them some Joe juice. Let's send them some Dr. Irene to take them up a notch.
Mhm.
Let's send the support and the infantry of that high vibe tribe to elevate them all. But if you're not seen because you're not showing up doing the work, you're not going to get where you need to go. You got to be seen. You got to do the work, and then we'll do the work and then be seen for anybody to buy what you're selling, which is really your heart space trying to connect with other people. Because when it comes down to it, that's what it's about. And I'm an introvert. I mean, I'm very much like, if I had never had to leave my house and I could be in my PJs all day and not have a conversation with another human being, I would probably be okay with that. But that's not healthy for me because I don't think that's my soul's calling. My soul's calling is to put myself out there to support, to lift, love, and serve others. And then leading them, what's the next step in their life? And that intuitive guidance, which is such a superpower that we all have.
Mm. And how do you recommend that people get in touch with their inner superpower? I don't think we've actually, let me take a step back. I don't know that we have actually discussed so far your specific gifts.
Well, I'm not waving my freak flag very high because I feel like I'm still sort of settling into what my gifts are. Um, I just typically tell people I'm highly intuitive, and I think that for me, when I spend time with a person, or I'm near a person, or I'm working with a person, the skills that need to present themselves, whether it's a premonition, whether it's an image, a message, um, whatever it is, just sort of shows up. So this is still kind of new to me, but I think that because you're exercising that muscle, it becomes more clear, and that I can't choose what shows up next. I can't choose the direction or the solution I provide for somebody, or the coaching that I give someone. Even like in this interview, I just showed up. I mean, I can't sit in a space of the planning and everything being, like, what exactly am I going to say? It really just the thing that shows up is going to show up for the person that needs to hear it. And I think it's probably kind of a flaky way to answer a question, but I typically just tell people I'm just highly intuitive, and I'm like an intuitive guide.
Intuitive guide. And thank you. I didn't think it was flaky at all. And like you, I truly believe that exactly the right people who need to hear this
Mm-hmm.
are listening. And for anyone who possibly felt uncomfortable with what Joe just said, perhaps just with some loving curiosity, ask yourself, why does this make me feel uncomfortable? Because really what she's talking to in my understanding is the intuition. I believe that evolutionarily, and I keep saying that because I'm all about the neurophysiology and evidence-based, and it's going to seem really frou-frou to some people to talk about intuition in the same breath as neurophysiology or quantum physics even. And yet I believe that we have that sixth sense that has been beaten out of us. It's been programmed out of us. Our ancestors understood it because it's what they needed to survive and thrive and evolve and grow. And then we hit the age of reason. And if it can't be measured, then it must not exist, or it's a myth, or it's a lie, right? So it's like the pendulum has swung too far to the logical, scientific, and really, in so many ways, the baby's been thrown out with the bathwater, right? So it's time for us to bring it back and understand, and that's part of what I'm teaching with the meditation, with the brain power techniques. It's that you have this untapped power. Whether you call it God, whether you call it your soul, whatever you choose to call it, you have an untapped power that is inside of you and around you, your energy field, and it has all the answers. Because we are connected, we are electromagnetic energy, and even across the distance, I can feel your energy.
And what's funny about this is Tesla talked about it, Albert Einstein talked about it, like these brilliant people talked about it. And then it kind of got forgotten. And I think that people like you and I showing up, you can't measure what it's like to connect with another person, give them a download of guidance, and then they come back and say, that changed my life. My life is taking a completely different path because of those 15 minutes I spent with you. Mm-hmm. And I don't know how to explain to you how 15 minutes with another human being has changed my life, but I see the world differently. I don't know what just happened, but I feel like everything's going to be okay. And I'm like, that's God stuff. I mean, that's divine guidance. That's a real thing. Angels show up all around us all the time. Getting hung up on a phone call with somebody and missing a car accident because you didn't leave the house 5 minutes earlier. Just all of these things are happening around us all the time. And it's as much science as it is, anything else. Because and the closer you get tapped to it, which is the work that you work with people, which is clearing out their mud, their muck, so they can see clearly and they can breathe with a big open chest. And they're like, okay, God, universe, whatever you're going to throw at me, it's going to be okay. I know I'm not alone in this. I'm open to it. I'm powerful. That's what you're doing, is you're rewiring your brain so that you're now connected to something greater than you. And I think that's the work that so many of us are doing, because from a medical perspective, we're also aware that stress feeds inflammation, that inflammation feeds cancer, that, all of these things are triggering all these other things. And, the healthiest people on the planet are people that giggle and that laugh, and they're filled with joy and peace. Why? Because they know something the rest of the people on the planet don't know. And so let's show them what that thing is and how they're tapped into that and how they can tap into their healing. So yeah, the work we do is really important. And we see it change people's lives every day.
Absolutely. And I love that you brought up a number of times the gratitude and appreciation, the understanding that whether it was you getting fired as a massive smackdown or me almost dying in a car accident in my family, it's that understanding that things are all, and it's one of my favorite affirmations, things are always working out for me, even if I don't understand how in the moment. And I choose to be grateful and appreciative for every experience, because it is taking me toward the person that I am meant to become, my purpose in life. And if you approach everything in life with that appreciation, then you are no longer the victim. You are in control. And it sounds so minuscule, but it's that simple choice of choosing love, choosing gratitude, choosing appreciation, even if you don't know why. Just I'm trusting that this is the right thing, the right here, right now, that it's happening for me and not to me. I become the dog that wags the tail rather than the tail being wagged by the dog. Or my favorite Dire Straits song, sometimes you're the bug and sometimes you're the windshield wiper.
Sometimes you're the dog, sometimes you're the fire hydrant, you know.
There you go. There you go. And two, because I know we're kind of like, we're so similar. And historically, I have worked with, and I still do work with many people who are burnt out, who are on that slippery slope, who are anxious and overwhelmed and stressed and perhaps nearing the end of their rope if they're not at the end of their rope, and wondering, God, how much more can I take here? And yet I see my role with them as helping, giving them that uplifting they need, giving them that hand up, feeding them, teaching the man how to fish rather than feeding him for a day, so that we feed him for a lifetime, giving them those skills so that then they can get to that place where they can open up their intuition and their love center and their appreciation center. Because, as I say, stress, and you said it so eloquently too, that stress basically is like giving yourself like a frontal lobotomy. It just takes out this part of your brain that's your executive functioning. This is your executive team right here: the logic, the thinking, the initiative, the decision making, the creativity, and so when you're under stress and you're feeling anxious and overwhelmed, feeling like you're drowning, that all goes out the window, right? So that's when you make poor decisions, or when you make no decisions at all, and you become like a deer caught in the headlights, or you go into rages. And it's that when you use the tools that you have at your disposal to decrease that down, so then you can start thinking again, then you can start breathing again, then you can start being creative and thinking about solutions, right? And that's when our intuition opens up. Like, when do you get your best ideas? When you're taking a walk, or you're in the shower, or maybe when you're sleeping. You ever wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and it's like, oh, this is like a Nobel Prize idea. Write it down.
Exactly.
Right.
It's funny that you say that too, because with this particular coursework, if people are able to, I call it like the red phone to your divine, but it's all staticky, and you can't you're like, oh, I want guidance, I want direction, but it's like, you become like a telephone repairman, or like a plumber, you're cleaning out the plumbing so everything flows. Well, that flow is your divine. That's your, that's your gifts and your link to your higher power, whatever you want to call it. I don't really care. But if you're not able to connect to that, what a struggle. Yes. What a struggle. What a hard life. So if we're able to move people through to a space quickly in a very short amount of time, where they're in ownership of their life, they know they got themselves here because they are a badass rock star. If they've had a particularly hard life, I always tell my students, if you've had a hard life, your soul must be a rock star. Like, wow, you're amazing, versus I'm the victim. Huge difference, right? And the people that are showing up to push your buttons, they're all your teachers. It's all dinner and a show. And then eventually about the third session that we have, people are sitting back and as a witness of their awareness, which basically means I can watch what's happening in my life and be disconnected from it. I'm just watching it. I'm observing. I'm in a space of calm. Well, if I'm in a space of calm and I'm not attached to it, then I'm going to get this information. I can think clearly. I'm not full of adrenaline. I'm not full of like cortisol, like pumping out like crazy. I'm ODing on cortisol, right? and stress, and I'm feeding inflammation, I'm just toxic. I'm not doing that. I'm like, wow, look at my ex acting crazy. Boy, his path is hard. Boy, he's taught me a lot. I'm really grateful for all the things he taught me, pushing my buttons. Huge difference. And that's the goal. And that's, I know, the goal with the work you do as well.
So the name of your programs is called Big Mess to Big Magic, is that?
Big Mess to Big Magic. And it's a 4-week course. It's 1 hour a night. And it's been profound. It's been life-changing for these students. And I get text messages on a regular basis about, this happened today and this is how I responded. I've never responded like that before. I feel so good about it. You know, whether it's a letdown or, you know, that energetic archetype coming at them, like attacking them or criticizing them, and they don't feel anything in response to it. They're just watching it. Like there's not anything about that. They're like, oh, that's that person behaving a certain way. I wonder if there's something I'm supposed to learn from it. Or if we're just passing each other, like, you know, maybe they're learning something from me. I want to walk with grace and ease and not be reactive to it. I just want to learn from it as it hits me, and then allow it to hit me and pass through me, and let's move on. Not be attached to it, all our feelers. Ooh, poor me. I'm the center of the universe. No, not really. Not entitled.
Perfect. Thank you, Joe. And we will put Joe's links down in the comments when this video is uploaded for Lift a Sister Up and for her programs. And and for whatever other pages that you have for resources that you think that people could really, really use to help them get ready. How's that? And I really encourage all of you to get to know Jo better. She is amazing. She's going to blow your mind. And I know that she has with me, and I would say blow her heart. I like that much better. And looking forward to talking with you more. Thank you so much for being here with me today, Jo. And looking forward to transforming the world together.
Thank you. Appreciate it.